once again, we have the added benefit of everyone has a sort of a different piece of the company there within. So it's going to be good to get perspective from all of you. I guess my first question, hearing all of that, what is most different today about the companies you're in than when you first got into them? I'm talking specifically, this whole conference, a lot of the affiliates were telling me they want to focus on customer relationships and how they're changing and how we approach our customers and how we maintain those relationships. How would you say that the customer relationship, how does it look now compared to when you first started in the business, and how are you changing the way you're interacting with customers? So yeah, who's most eager?
I think for me, it's it's a fun, exciting time, mainly because there's a huge paradigm shift, not only in our industry, but even the people we do business with. At least in Hawaii, everything's been a lot more casual. It's been a little bit more about the content, not so much about, here's my appearance and whatnot. And it's, and even with the industry, that whole paradigm shift I'm talking about, I came in during RGB, HV, and, it was a great thing. And now it's digital, and now it's more of a, how can we work to collaborate? And even the customers kind of understand that it's more of a collaboration and a content driven rather than, I'm the expert and I know everything, and here, just trust me, this works.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest change, is that the customers are far more knowledgeable. The evolution of the internet, when I first started, the internet was just getting started in 1997. And we had high value for our clients because we had the knowledge. We had a binder, we had brochures. A PDF didn't even exist back then. And now we've seen a huge shift where our clients have done a tremendous amount of research before we even get the opportunity to have our first meeting with them. So they're far more knowledgeable about the services that we provide.
Yeah, I think expectations is a big word. People's expectations has gotten much higher. Top brands around the world, whether it be Salesforce's, or the HubSpots, or SAP, Oracle, whatever it may be, they have an expectation for a much higher customer experience overall. So I think that just kind of forced us to up our game at a faster speed and kind of uncovered all of our issues, and then forced us to kind of try to solve those issues much faster.
And I think we've talked a lot about it already this week, but it has become a lot more about user experience and what does the end user need in the rooms, and it's a lot less about selling products and even solutions. It's really become a lot more about who's using it, why are they using it, all that kind of stuff. So we're dealing with not just IT people anymore. We're dealing with CEOs and marketing directors and other people that want an experience.
And Megan, you were saying even some processes you've seen that have had changed. What have you seen change since you came on board with data projections?
I think that the core philosophy, being the customer experience, hasn't necessarily changed. I think for us it's twofold. I think that the shift has been looking at our internal customers, being our employees, and how they're as equally as important as our external customers, and really trying to focus on that experience and ensuring that everyone understands the big picture, understands the impact that they make and the value that they bring, so they can speak to that. So I think at the end of the day, it's always about doing what's right for the customer, making sure that you're capturing that experience, but at the same time, making sure internally that that vision and understanding and value is there. I think that, kind of what Dan spoke to earlier, it's also about how you present the information. So it's more about that human connection. It's not just, going through and doing a trade show. It's so much of it is the technology that we embrace. So it's more of the, how do you get that out there? How do you share that? How do you make, different experiences go viral? How do you make what you live and breathe every day be a part of what others see, so that they can relate to where you're going and what you're doing and the value that you bring because of that intrinsic human connection. So it's just thinking about it a different way and how you get that out there. So I think that the approach is much different.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, it seems like the common theme is that both your customer and yourselves have the opportunity to conduct research, on this thing called the internet before you have the face-to-face meeting. So I guess what are you seeing there? Are you researching the client and trying to find out what you can before you go into that meeting room and figure out what's going on? And then are you also, I guess it's sort of a two-part question. Maybe we'll talk about that. What do you find you have to do before a client meeting now? and then I want to look at what you find, what they're going to find about you on the internet before they get there. For me in particular. No, anyway. So yeah, what are you doing to prep yourself for meetings, face-to-face meetings?
I know for me, I do a ton of research. I try to look up as many YouTube videos if I can identify a certain individual and see if they've been interviewed before, try to get a read on their personality, what they're into, read about their products, get an idea of how they're positioning themselves, and if I was in their shoes, what would I want to be doing to be better? The more research you do, the better. You definitely can't just walk in the door thinking that being the AV expert is going to be some kind of credential, because at this point, everyone's expectations are high enough that there's plenty of different people who know how to install technology. You need to kind of figure out what's that angle going to be that's actually going to get them to open their ears a little and say, I never kind of thought of it that way, or just bring some kind of unique angle that they're not expecting. So that's for me.
I think the end user panel yesterday morning kind of gave us some good insight there. Publicly traded companies, do your research, find out what is new in their business. There's also some tremendous tools available to us today. LinkedIn Sales Navigator, for example. You can follow certain prospects and the platform will alert you on news events as they post. So you're literally getting real-time updates about things that are happening in your clients' businesses. So you can have really intelligent, relevant conversations now that, I don't even know how you would do that pre-automation, pre-internet.
Very true.
Well, and I think you can find a lot of data about the company's vision and their culture, and it sounds negative, but use it against them almost, and say, so you value this, and this is how we're going to help you with that value. So it's less about what we do, and it's how we're helping your organization meet your objectives that you publicly are stating. You used to go in and ask a client, well, what do you do and why? Now it's all online, so it's a lot easier. And I think customers expect that too. They don't want to.
Yeah, they don't have the patience to sit there while you interview them and try and get the
you should know
background.
That.
Yeah,
all that. Yeah.
I think it goes back to the differentiator. What are you going to do to set yourself apart from? Because so much of it today, even if there's a relationship, it's more than just you that they could be talking to. And why is the value there? What are you showing them that they truly are valuable to you? How are you setting yourself apart by whether it's, getting creative, not just looking up on their website, but trying to figure out, what is something that is truly valuable to their organization and having that kind of be that little way in, so to speak. But until you have the opportunity to prove yourself, because initially you don't. Until you get in there and have the ability to prove yourself, there really isn't much of a differentiator. So that's, I think, this conference specifically has been a great reminder of what we need to be doing and what we need to be doing differently that we have not been doing. At least I'll speak for us, haven't been doing as well as what we probably should be. So.
Well, there's an expectation now as sales and marketing people. We have to create a personal brand now. We were in a session last week during our sales kickoff, and we had someone presenting on LinkedIn. And things like having a standardized LinkedIn profile across your entire sales team so that when a prospect comes to check you out or do their research, consistency to a lot of people means professionalism. So, consistent headshots, consistent banner images on your LinkedIn profiles can also start to build that credibility with a prospect.
Yeah, I know that, Kaleo, you've specifically spoken about that, about how personal brand, for you, for the leadership of a company, but also all the team members too. It's a good way to have a presence before you even walk into a meeting. Is that something?
Absolutely. The internet as a whole is a great tool. Exactly like what Kirby was mentioning. I look up the company, their vision, and all that stuff, and just like what Dan was saying, if they have, especially the people you're meeting with, it's not uncommon today for people to have that personal brand. So then I find out who that person is, and I treat both the person that I'm meeting with and the company like it's a person, and if they do have anything online, I talk to them as if, them and the company is that person. And it's usually a conversation, not so much of the old school, like Kevin was mentioning, where you're asking questions. It's, wow, I saw this, I'm really impressed with that. And it gets them talking and engaged, and they know that you already care enough and know them. And it's kind of like, You know, like I personally haven't done the online dating thing. I did the old school way, but my friends are, and they're, you know, like I'm like, dude, that's like the greatest thing ever. You have all the information there, you learn, and then you can already see kind of what you have in common.
Yeah.
So you kind of start hitting those points, and it's, you know, it's wonderful. That's how we make instant connections with our customers.
Yeah, exactly. And I know that, Dan, you've been working on the
Yes,
HP's MySpace page, you know.
Oh yeah, yeah. HP's MySpace is on point. Doing
Yeah,
good.
man, that is the future
Yeah,
platform.
It's doing well. Yep.
But yeah, I know your focus has been about getting a kind of the brand, the HP brand, repositioning it in a new way. How have you been doing that on the internet?
I mean, well, it started probably, I'd say 6 years ago. Our website was starting to look out of date. I think our whole industry was starting to look out of date. So the first step was really just kind of renewing our messaging overall. Look, feel, logo design, digital experience, just trying to make sure that it looked modernized. You have to be realistic with yourself. If you look at your website and you look at kind of like what Chip was saying about who's your competitor, it's the same thing, because you spend your day going on 100 websites, and if all your top brands have one look and feel, and then they go to you and you just look like you're in the 70s, it's an easy comparison. So the first step was just modernizing and cleaning ourselves up, trying to not totally look like a pure technology vendor, looking like you have a message that you can position in a way where it's like, all right, this company's not just offering 100 manufacturers of stuff. It's that this company can help me design an experience, build some kind of unique environment or something like that. So the first step was really that experience redesign, basic branding, and since then we've been really just more to your point about looking internally. We kind of always just had all these different demo rooms, and you can come in and, oh, look at this does and look at this does, but 90% of our company wasn't really using the technology. If you walked in, it didn't feel like we were a technology company. It didn't look like all the things that we're selling them is in practice. So the last 4 years, we really spent positioning, our new headquarters, working with a lot of partners who are here today, to build out what we think, if we're the ideal customer, let's treat ourselves like that, because then everything gets organic, right? You can just speak to, hey, this is what I do, this is what I do, this is how we see, because now it's not saying, hey, this is what you should do. We don't do it, but you should do it, right? So just trying to get more in that direction. Then your brand starts to get to a point where there's a story behind it, and it creates more meaning, more connection, and that's kind of the basics of what we've been working on.
Yeah, and I guess that leads to the question, like, how do we make our industry look more cool? As we learned yesterday, our industry's uncool.
Which is shocking, because it's one of the coolest,
Right?
visually
Exactly.
cool industries there is. Yeah.
How do we let people know? So I guess that is something that we're all facing. How are we making our outward, presence so that when people Google us, is that something you're finding as a challenge out there?
Well, I found for us, going to Dan's point, we were talking about this earlier. For some reason in our industry, it started where we were the expert in using the technology, and somewhere in between, a lot of us aren't using the technology. Now going back to it, it seems like a lot of us are trying to get back to, we're not just selling it, but we have to drink our own Kool-Aid. And I think that's where the employees, the company starts to realize, hey, this is not just a cool thing we're selling, but it is pretty awesome. And then when you're starting to speak of it from personal experience, not just, I swear you should use this. I don't know how it works, but it's good. It actually, it makes it a lot easier to convey how great it is. So being able to drink your own Kool-Aid and believe what you're selling we have great products, and I think we have great solutions, and being able to accept it and use it yourselves is a big key to it.
And this actually
that trust.
also ties in. Oh, sorry, Megan.
No, I was just going to say it helps to build the trust that you can speak to because you use it.
Yeah, because that's what I think we were talking about this leading up to the panel too. This also ties into, the next gen concept of flexible hours and remote workers. That is still something, ironically, that is a little bit threatening to certain enterprise, certain companies. But I think that we're not even talking just the next gen workforce that wants this. The workforce in general wants that flexibility. And so a great way to use our technology is to start saying, okay, yeah, you're a remote worker, here's how we're connecting. Is that something you guys are employing within your own? I think, Megan, you were talking specifically about that.
Right, I think that it's getting rid of the societal stereotypes, so to speak. So I think that a lot of us just assume that millennials or next gen, or that you have to have a ping pong table when you walk in for your reception.
Oh, you don't?
have to
NCOM has one.
and that
We
you
do.
have to have this open concept that everyone loves, which everyone really hates because they don't want to be out in the open and they don't want to be. So I think that it's taking a step back and even speaking to so much of this conference and the buzzwords is that throw the societal pressures or norms out the window. That at the end of the day, you have to look to your business model and your vision and really try and incorporate that. The way that we are today is that we are individualistic, that we are very much, it's more of that customized. Just because you do one for, one employee doesn't mean that it's going to have the same value as it is for someone else. I think that, yes, technology allows for us to work remotely, but there's also something to be said for that water cooler talk and that interaction with your peers and that, engaging in the culture and being a part of it. So I think it's finding balance and finding what works for your company, but not just having a stereotypical, okay, everyone works from home or every single position has to do this. It's really trying to step outside and think, okay, what works for us? What works for our vision, for our culture, and trying to find that balance.
Well, and can I ask, so is yours, I would assume, more than a bottom-up approach then to that? It's not the CEO coming in and saying, this is our culture now. It's the employees saying, this is what we want. Maybe we do want a ping pong table. Maybe we don't. Maybe whatever.
Absolutely. It's not assuming. It's
Right,
asking.
right.
It's not being afraid to say, hey, is this something that you would value? Is this something that that would be important to you? Whether it's the flexibility with your schedule, whether it's the resources of the tools or, what you have there within your facility. Maybe it's different. It's different for everyone. I think that part of our problem is that we assume too many things and that we don't ask the question and that we try and apply it to every single employee across the board, and it just doesn't work.
Yeah, I think, because what you're saying is absolutely true. And, Ingolf at our company, Ingolf's gotten really good at letting us kind of drive upwards some of the things. And I think he rolls his eyes half the time at what we do. But we have a cotton candy machine, too. So if you want to play ping pong, cotton candy.
Got a dental plan?
Horribly messy.
A dental plan, and a really good dental plan, yes.
Yeah, we do need to increase that now. We've got a cotton candy machine. But so I do think it's a lot. Just listen to your employees and let them come up with some ideas, and it's going to take you outside of your comfort zone. And again, you can ask Ingolf what meds he takes to help him deal with that.
Well, and sometimes it's not even time, it's stuff. Like we've got an employee purchase program, and some people, they want the latest, greatest iMac. So we'll hook them up with some high-tech toys. And that's better than a pay raise or a week off for some people. So to Megan's point, it is very individualistic. You have to be flexible. And when you are, that's when you see these upticks in employee engagement. It becomes a great place to work. They'll tell their friends. And one of our goals as an organization is to be a destination place to work for our industry in Canada.
And the other thing on that point, when we're talking about remote workers and that basic concept, I think if you want to sell that to customers, you do have to look internally and try to not force, but do identify the opportunities where it's actually valuable and try to make that happen, because then you can, again, back to the use case, when you're sitting there talking to a customer, you can say, hey, this is what we do and why we do it. And that kind of comes down to encouraging middle management or your management teams to encourage it in their departments and to manage it well. And each manager kind of has to do it their own, because every department's different, right? You can't just say, yeah, you're definitely a remote worker, do your thing. It's up to them to kind of manage that. But if you can implement that and we can be an example for the customer, then that's how we lead and that's how we actually push it. So
I think as you drive more of a mobile worker philosophy within your organization too, you have to be aware of the company culture. You have to schedule social events at the office that will bring people in.
Or get a cotton candy machine.
Cotton candy machine, yeah. We had barbecue last year, chili cook-off, things like that still build that sense of community within the organization. Some people become highly productive when they're isolated. Other people don't. Like, people are individuals, so you kind of have to come up with a program that addresses all of the unique desires within the workforce.
I think everyone in this room probably agrees nothing ever fully replaces face-to-face time. I think every big company is always going to have hubs, whether they got one or 30 or 100 of them. And the remote workers will always kind of be able to tether and connect so that you have that in-face time. It just builds teamwork in a different way. So,
I like what Megan said about balance. It does, when they're remote, you just basically hold them according to results, and it works for a little bit. But then you need that balance. You need to rope them back in, and you need to get that company culture back. And exactly what Dan mentioned, that without that face-to-face, you're not going to build a relationship. Same with our clients. I can email you all day, but eventually, if I don't visit you, then it's going to disappear. That relationship's going to disappear. And so it does take a lot of balance. It's exhausting, especially as a manager. It is exhausting. But when it works, though, I mean, and everybody's driving, the culture's clicking, the results are coming in. It's fantastic. But it sucks that you just can't rest. It's just never ending.
I think too that it's about expectations. I think that is the one key takeaway out of everything, is ensuring that those expectations are clear. That whether it's remote, whether it's on site, whether it's just even little things. Like, I don't care how you get here. I don't care if you fly a UFO. I don't care what you do, but this is my expectation at the end of the day within this time frame. This is my expectation. So, and staying engaged with them and constantly communicating with where they stand against those expectations. Because I think that where you get the disconnect, and just people becoming disengaged, is that they don't know where they stand. They don't know where that value is. They don't know, how they're performing against expectations if you haven't clearly, set those parameters. I think that's a key to it as well.
It sounds like a lot of this, what we're trying to apply internally is what we're trying to apply to our external facing sales tactics. Like, you guys are talking about listening to your team members, and you also need to listen to your customer. So it's a very similar thing. It's talking about needs, talking about what they want, and responding to individual requests. Is this person into gear? Is this person into metrics? How do we motivate them to want our stuff? And how do we motivate our team to want to install our stuff? So it's definitely kind of an interesting time watching all this coalesce. And I think, what I've noticed too with everyone on stage and everyone in this room is, we keep calling a lot of this stuff next gen, and we think we're talking about a culture of people that loves ping pong tables and cotton candy machines. But truly, everyone in this room is like the most fun people in this industry. Like, we constantly see it. It's across the board. It's everybody on the team. And I think that what we're doing now is we're almost just opening it up to, it's okay to enjoy our work and enjoy working with each other. And I think this is kind of a cool time. We can embrace all that. So as I think about that, like what we're looking ahead, I guess one question I had was, what one, new tool that maybe that's new to the way we do business, do you find that you can't live without? We've heard about a lot of future technologies in this last couple hours, but what new tool have you added? We've all had to have kind of a YouTube presence now. We all have to have connection with our employees. But is there something that you completely rely on now that wasn't maybe something we needed in the AV biz not too long ago?
From a worker standpoint, like as a user ourselves?
Internally, yeah.
I mean, the basics are good, and for us, a lot of the basics never work that easily. Content sharing, super easy, not going through a big process. Easy video calls, all the things that really are super simple are finally getting to the point where they are simple. I mean, whether it be Cisco Spark or any of these kind of new platforms that are getting to the point where it is easy. I think easy is finally almost there. So that's my main.
I think the thing that's been most transformational at Genesis over the past 12 months, I'd say, is we've finally reached full adoption for desktop video. So now we're able to meet at the drop of a hat, anytime, anywhere, face-to-face video, full content sharing. There's no barriers anymore to face-to-face meetings over video. You don't have to book a conference room. You don't have to talk to IT because you can't get the call going. It's just there. It's consistent. It's reliable, and that is what we need to get out into our clients' businesses because it is transformational.
So I'd say we moved to the Google Suite, G Suite, I don't know, a couple months ago, maybe a year ago, and I think that's been a really great tool for us. I know we've been on Office 365 and Exchange forever, and that's kind of the standard, but Google has a lot of really good tools. We use Hangouts religiously. I mean, I'm like texting people right now, I think, about stuff back home. And so, I mean, it's a little bit better than texting because you can get it on your phone, your computer, whatever, but they have a ton of collaboration tools. Yes, you can get with Microsoft and that too, they're similar, but the docs, and you can just go in, all be collaborating together on the same document, whether you're on a call, whether you're across continents. it's a very good tool. So I would recommend, if you're on Microsoft, if you haven't looked at Google, look at it, because we were kind of scared to make that jump, but once we did, it's been invaluable to us.
I can't think of one right now. Sorry.
For me, it's just the cloud as a whole. I know when the cloud was a thing, it was like, oh, spooky, whatever. But being able to access anything anywhere, that's probably the most powerful tool that we have. Our guys in the office, and it's a huge paradigm shift. Half our office thinks you have to do everything there. And people who get comfortable with the cloud, they realize, like, I can be at a client site, I can work there, I can do all my paperwork there, move everything there, and I can talk to my designer team, say, hey, here it is, here's the link, boom, rock and roll. Never have to set foot in the office. Emergency happens, I'm getting yelled at by my dad over there. He's like, it's like I log into Citrix and I go check my server and everything, and I find what the problem was, and I go ahead and forward that off to whoever needs it. For me, the cloud is probably the most powerful tool that we have.
But can I echo, so when you're talking about that, I agree, because I think as we're talking next gen, it kind of does feel like we're talking about ping pong tables and cotton candy machines that all we want to do is play. But the difference is we might work at 10 o'clock at night. So we come in the office, play ping pong, and you're like, what are all my guys doing? But then we get our proposals done at 10 o'clock and send them out. And that's enabled by all these mobile tools we have now. So whether you're a remote worker, or even if you're in the office, it's not that millennials are lazy. Well, I mean, I am, but others are not. It's just that we work on a different schedule. So we're not the 8 to 5 sit at a desk kind of worker in general.
And I think that's been every generation. It's just now we're just looking at it a little more frankly. There's always been that guy who's like cranking at midnight, because that's, humans have different, peak hours, basically. We're just sort of acknowledging that. And we do have the tools now. And I think given that, it's kind of interesting, like now that you have some of these tools working internally, it's almost like you can approach your customers with a different understanding of what they expect from our technology. When you walk into a meeting, you're not trying to sell them some stuff. You actually know what it should feel like to have an easy meeting. I guess, given what Linda was talking about and this word that we all keep hearing, disruption, I guess I kind of wanted to just kind of throw this at you and see how you could respond. Like, how are we going to disrupt the AV industry? To think about that, we're talking about customer experience, but I guess, what is our what if? What is our Uber moment of being, on a street in Paris and wishing we could have a car right there? What is our what if, or what do you think? How can we invert the way that we used to sell gear and now we're selling experience?
I was going to say, PVPs, cover your ears. What if we stop talking about equipment?
Yeah.
Like, what if that sales transaction, like that onboarding of a new client, what if you never talked about hardware? That doesn't mean we're going to stop selling it, because obviously we need hardware to facilitate the solution. But more and more, if we're focusing on the customer experience, it's not about the product anymore. Because there's so many great manufacturers out there. Like, it's not like you're dealing with a sketchy product anymore. That's the what if for me.
Yeah.
Well, I think to echo Kevin's point, I've been saying for a little while now, we need to stop calling ourselves an integrator. That's kind of an old-fashioned term to our clients anyway, and I know that offends everyone in the room here because we are all integrators. But to a client, they don't know what that means, and I don't have the answer yet. Are we a technology provider? That sounds boring. I don't know what we are yet, but we're not an integrator anymore, and we need to stop talking like that. So, in my opinion.
I think the need for integration has gone away, or it's been reduced, right? So many things talk to each other just by connecting them with a cable. Like, the high level, high complexity integration, it's going away.
And being a solutions provider, extending Kevin's point, it's like we don't talk about a specific product, right? We're here to solve your problems, and here's a solution. And even going one step further, a lot of times it's not even a solution that we provide. We're talking to a customer, and sometimes they have a problem, like, hey, look, I don't sell this, but you might want to look into blah, blah, blah. And they really appreciate that they feel like I'm no longer trying to sell them something. I'm here to truly solve their problems. And that's actually been very successful for us. And that conversation is no longer about, hey, we're going to put in this HDMI or HD-based something. It's more of like, hey, here's your problem. We can solve this, make sure that and then we talk about their experience of the solution, they love it, and then we'll go ahead and design that in. And we can talk the specifics later, but most of that conversation is really just about how we're going to solve their problem and their user experience that they can expect.
And I think one of our biggest compliments is when a client calls and says, I know you don't do this, but what do you think about this, or who should
Oh, that's
I call?
beautiful. I love
It's like
that.
we built such a great relationship, and you trust our opinion. So yeah, I think you're absolutely right.
I think the disruption thing is sort of, it's an open game in our industry because we handle so many different verticals, right? So if you have that many different verticals that you touch, like hotel, retail, whatever it is, each one of those businesses is its own whole entire opportunity to come up with a whole list of ideas to how you can disrupt or transform how they work. So I think that there's just an unlimited number, and you just got to start thinking.
And maybe what we're called now is experience designers. You know, that's, and
Well, there was a lot of pushback with the Avixa rebranding, pardon me.
Yeah.
I read a lot of negative commentary in social media when that announcement was made, but you know, that's probably a disruptive marketing message, and probably the right one, because as we're moving away from a product-centric business model to more of an experiential business model, I mean, Avixa makes sense in that context, right?
What does it stand for again?
Audio-visual experience.
Integrated experience.
Integrated experience, sorry,
Is the
yes.
A at the end?
Association.
Association, yeah.
They wanted to emphasize that
Right.
we're still
Right, that's
an
what the piece was. I was
association.
No, actually, I love the fact that they changed it to experience. In fact, me and my dad were just talking about this yesterday. You know, we're always concentrating on process and what makes things faster. But in reality, we have to look at, you know, the important part is how is this affecting our customer? What kind of experience are we giving them? Yeah, okay, we might feel like internally we made it faster, but our customer, you know, they don't see what happens behind the scenes. So how do we adjust what needs to be adjusted that the customer actually experiences and go through? And one of the things we're working on is how do we keep them along the entire way, let them know, hey, here's the design thing, here's what we got. It's not a finished product, but you know, this is what we're thinking. And they have their input, and then you kind of feel like you've collaborated together to make this solution. And now the customer has this buy-in that, you know, they felt like they put in that time and the specs and everything. So it really helps out in the long term.
You're talking about that customer experience, and that's something that we've talked about as an organization, getting that documented and polished and a marketing message around that, because we live in an Amazon Prime world now. So the expectations are only getting shorter for how quickly a client expects their project to be delivered. So if we're not making the journey clear from the very beginning and setting reasonable expectations that it takes this number of days to do shop drawings, it takes this number of days to order all the material and pre-wire the racks and do some pre-commissioning testing, like if they don't understand that that's what it looks like to do an audiovisual project, then you immediately get off on the wrong foot because they have an expectation that you're going to do it this quickly. The reality is it's that long, and the conversation didn't even happen until after they issued a PO.
And it's getting shorter. Like even the 5 years I've been doing it, they used to be okay with this much time. Now they're going, well, our building's done. Can't you get this in next week? You're like, no.
Yep.
I think that it's a matter of also setting those expectations, but giving them choices, any options that they have, and communicating those. Like the pre-configured solutions, we've talked about that if there's, you know, if you truly want an out-of-the-box solution, just here it is, I can get it to you within this time frame. However, if you want it more customized or more in line, then it's going to be this. But just communicating so that they feel like they have a choice in, you know, what is delivered. And back to, again, what is the ideal outcome that you're looking to achieve? What is the solution or experience that we can help you to achieve? And trying to get them, because a lot of times we can all relate to this, hair on fire, running day to day, that they're not stopping to think and look at the big picture of why is this an issue? Why is this a problem? So helping them to even be able to get their head around and articulate that vision, I think, is extremely helpful.
Yeah, that's the customer journey now. This like they need an email right after the meeting that almost gives them a timeline. You know how Amazon immediately says your order has been received. Right. We almost have to do these little sort of, you know, we talk about all these marketing solutions that do that automatically, that can send you drip emails. We almost have to do that with our customer journey.
Yep.
You know, say like, thanks for the meeting, you know, and then like give them a little like update every day so they know the timeline.
Well, you order a pizza now and it tells you. It's like Bob just put it in the oven.
You can see it on your app saying the car is like 2 blocks away.
It's probably all fake. It's all made up.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, Bob doesn't exist. Yeah, it's definitely an interesting time to be able to explain. Like, but all you have to do is you adopt the hipster language of artisanal, right? Like, people will wait forever for a hand carved, like, perfect, coffee mug. Oh my God, I'm so glad it took 8 months.
Yeah.
So like, if we can just say that what we do is handcrafted.
Handcrafted, artisan, HD-based T transmitters.
Little psychology.
Totally. That's what it's all about. Pivot. We need to pivot and make ourselves into artisans. So yeah, we're good there. I think, and so we keep talking about experience designs and we're designing experiences. And now we all have to have these websites that when people get to them, they immediately get a sensation for who we are. I guess my question is, what experiences are we selling now? Like, is it meetings? Is it efficiency? Like, or is it collaboration? Like, what do your customers, like, what's the actual thing, what is the experience we're selling, I guess?
Ease of use, always ease of use.
Ease of use, yeah, I agree 100%.
If you can make it intuitive, that's the goal. Everybody, you do have 2 different types of users, right? So depending if I talk to the CIO, then he's gonna want like everything capable, right? For a CIO, a Samsung phone or an Android phone in general is gonna be his thing, right? He just wants the features. But for my average everyday users, I'm gonna go iPhone. I'm gonna go simple. He picks it up. There's no instruction manual. That's the way to go. Everybody, there's a different tool for everyone. If there's an operator in the room, then we're gonna go with feature-based. If it's just somebody who doesn't use it every day, we're gonna make it as simple as possible, as easy as we can do it. So.
Yeah, I mean, it depends too on what your business does, because I think there's a variety of integrators in here. Some might focus on one aspect of the business, one might not have another aspect. So someone might be doing digital signage and video walls, some might be doing just video conferencing. So I think it really depends on what offer that you have before you can determine what that message is. Of course, ease of use is sort of the low-hanging fruit at this point. Everyone knows that they want to get there, but that message really depends back to disrupting different verticals, right? If you're going to go in there and try to get somebody's attention who's from retail or from hotel or whatever the topic is, that message needs to be for them, right? So just making sure that you are honing a specific message, because we'll all actually just end up sounding the same. You go to all 100 integrators' websites and we're like, easy to use collaboration,
Yeah.
Like at a certain point you got to try and figure out how you're going to hone messages, and it doesn't just have to be the homepage of your website. You can build specific campaigns for specific industries and share certain stories in certain areas. So I think it just depends.
I think that the whole ease of use is based on that instant gratification. I think that so much of it is, we use that, ease of use and walking in. I think it's because we've all become so just programmed to say that, oh my gosh, 5 minutes, like it's not up and running, like I gotta go, like it's just instant, I need information now, I need to know what's going on, and even your flight's delayed 15 minutes, like that irks me to know. It's like, do you know how much stuff I have to do? And I think that just even societal pressures or how quickly we're getting information now, it's that downtime. It's that guilt of feeling inefficient and needing to always be on. And I think that ease of use is because of the downtime. And I think that it's wanting to be more efficient and having the ability to do things quicker, and not having what I think a lot of people would call as that downtime or inefficiency, or not doing what you feel is more important at that time.
When stuff doesn't work.
Well, and I think that's the last frontier of the audiovisual industry, is the day 2 onward aspect of the relationship. I think a lot of us do a fantastic job deploying systems, finishing projects, training, but then you leave. What happens from the customer's perspective when you leave that site? The next day, the next week, the next month. I think if we as an industry and a group of integrators, if we really focus on what that day 2 onwards experience looks like, that's where we'll bring a lot more value back to the relationships that we have with our clients. There's a lot of talk around adoption and And I don't think we're there yet. I think that's an area that we can improve upon so that our clients are truly getting the maximum amount of return on that investment. Because sometimes they're investing hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars on a communication and collaboration strategy. If they're not getting the maximum value, that's a pretty sad story.
Yeah, I mean, kind of building on that, treat it like a friendship, right? If you hang out with someone for 3 months, be like, yeah, all right, this is good. Maybe call you in 6 months. If you treat someone like a friend, you stay in touch. Hey, how's everything going? Even if you're not reaching out to talk about business or if they need an upgrade, stay in touch. You know, see what's up, follow their blog, see their social media, see if they got something going on, and just stay in touch. Be a friend, and you're just the friend that's good at technology. So.
Yeah. Because that's how we're all used to that with all the other services we use. You know, we always, like, every other service is using a marketing thing that's like sending me a list of things I might want to buy that day, you know, based on how I've been browsing on their site. So yeah, staying in touch, I mean, people expect that now. If they're working with you as a vendor, they're expecting to constantly hear from you. And it's not offensive anymore. We want to hear directly from brands.
Yeah.
So it's
I'm always shocked when I hear that salespeople aren't staying in touch with their customers. Like, you don't want more business? You don't want, you know,
Yeah.
I'm shocked that's even a topic.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. You know, we used to just think that it was business, and then sometimes we golf with these people, but now it's both. You know, it's like we are all of these things, and we do want to be thought of as the friend that's good at technology.
Yeah.
You know, and I like that idea where people will be posting stuff online about what they're trying to do within their organization, and we might be able to support them in that.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting perspective. I guess, yeah, like, so this keeping in touch idea too, it makes me think about something we talked about briefly yesterday, is this question of data and analytics. I mean, it's simultaneously the most nightmarish topic ever, and also something that we probably should embrace. Do you have are you starting to look at how you're gonna help your customers with usage, or how you're gonna use any of that?
I think analytics on the larger enterprise are critical. I heard someone mention yesterday that they're still looking for a solution that will do people counting in the rooms. And for video-enabled rooms during a video call, there's technology now that can, you know, pan the room and count the number of people in it. And, you know, when we're dealing with multi-million-dollar budgets, facilities and IT, you know, it's very important to know, do we have too many meeting rooms? Do we have not enough meeting rooms? What's the cancellation rate? What's the no-show rate? And I think that data, I mean, we're in a data-driven economy now. So I think if we can deliver that data to our client, that's one more value-added piece of the solution we can bring to the table.
It makes everyone nervous when we talk about data.
Hey, data.
Yeah.
I'm in sales. We don't use data.
Use emotion.
We make it all up.
I love data. You know, all the manufacturers at this point, they're putting in some kind of SNMP into their hardware. Getting that data to your customer is powerful. We're still working out the bugs on ours, but you know, your customers, when they see the data, whether it's usage or even like your system's down, there might be an error, and they don't even know it. You know, getting that data when, you know, even when they didn't ask for it, it's been very powerful to them. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the opposite of a data expert. It's definitely not my thing, but it seems like in general, you kind of say, first identify what data is important. A lot of times I just hear people throwing words out, KPIs, and they're just saying shit. Yo, sorry. You know, it's kind of like,
What are you talking about?
Yeah, you know what I mean? Just all these buzzwords, and they all say the same thing from every industry. I mean, identify what's important to measure before you just start saying it. I think customers can read that a mile away too when you just start saying, yeah, we do KPIs, we do those. You know, I think you gotta figure out what's important to measure and then jump into it. But
You know, it actually, Dan's point kind of reminded me of something. It's been interesting. So when I first came into this business, we were using all the industry words, talking to our customers, and our customers were like, I don't know what the heck you're talking about. And so, you know, making that huge paradigm shift, you know, I explained to my customers, actually one of the best people I emulated from is my dad. He's been in this industry for so long that he can talk to a 5-year-old and he'll be like, yes, let's do it. And you're like, whoa, how did you talk to them at that level?
A lot of money, though.
Yeah. But, I mean, well, because he actually, he goes to our, what's that called? Our local school that we adopted, elementary school, and he teaches them classes in electronics and whatnot, and they pick it up fast. And so that's where I explain to my employees, you know, especially the, what's that called? The salespeople, is if you're not able to, I know that's my guys. Yeah, I know. My department. Yeah. Those guys. Yeah. No, but I go back to the Einstein saying, you know, I'm just gonna paraphrase it here, but basically, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough, you know. And that's where I constantly tell them, like, if you can't explain it to that lowest level, that entry level person, then you just don't know it yourself.
Yep.
So,
Agree.
Yeah, it comes back to that Disney example of even the street sweepers are able to, you know, be engaging. And so everybody on your team, and this kind of also speaks to the next gen idea of company vision, you know, everybody on your team is out there, even when they're like at a party or something and they're talking about what they do for a living. You know, how many times in my career have I not been able to explain it? And I think that's one thing maybe we can fix right now, is we can give everyone on our team the language to say what we do and to make it sound cool. Like I've experimented with so many different ways of making it a thing that someone wants to ask another question about.
Right.
You know, so it's definitely how do we position ourselves, and I think that's, I guess when we think about how do we, like, what are the lines we can give our employees about, not employees, our team members, sorry. What can we say that is a quick way of saying what we do now, you know, to invigorate a 5-year-old about what we do?
I've had success in just giving examples. If I say we're an audio-visual systems integration company, it's like, huh?
Yeah.
Not happening. But just giving examples pretty fast, depending on who you're talking to, do a quick filter based on who they are and just say, you know what, I think they'd resonate with casino video walls and this and this and this, and just kind of give a few examples. Just leave a little cliffhanger, leave them interested. That's kind of what I've stuck to.
You do want a consistent voice as part of your brand. So, you know, it could be as simple as handing out a business card to all of your team members, you know, with your 30-second elevator pitch on the back. So eventually they can start to speak with that unified voice.
That's a good point.
Well, I think your question, it's a challenging one because you either go really broad and you make some fluffy statement about we craft experiences through technology and people are like, what the hell did you just say? What that means.
Yep.
Or you go too granular and you go, well, we install speakers and projectors and stuff like that, and you kind of devalue what we do. So I personally still have not figured out the perfect way to say what we do.
You're welcome to the club.
Yeah, so if anyone does.
I don't think our industry as a whole has. I think that's been the focus on even just yesterday, the whole AV versus the IT versus the UC versus the what is, you know, what the hell is it? Like back to the...
Do you guys feel that the AV/audiovisual moniker is destined for the scrap heap?
I do.
I think it's a dying.
absolutely do.
It's a dying adjective.
we rarely
what
say
we do.
AV anymore. We're solutions integrators, and then they're like, what is that? And then we explain it.
Well, and it's such a generic word now, right? It goes all the way back to the 8mm film projectors from school. Like
That's before my time.
Don't say AV, because I will tell you back when it was Infocom 3 years ago in Vegas, and I said, oh, I'm here for, you know, an AV conference, and you know, the lady looks at me and she kind of goes about and does whatever, and I'm talking to someone else and I hear her and she turns and she goes, she's in adult videos. And I was horrified. I was like, no, audio video, like this is not okay. And it was just how it was a completely foreign, that's where her mind, I guess, so, you know, but still, from that day I clarify what is meant by AV for sure, so.
Yep. I've been on the internet. AV is also some sort of hacker, some kind of evil virus thing we're all afraid of too. Oh yeah, antivirus. Yeah, it's that simple. And I'm like, oh no, but I'm sort of, but no, that's not what we do.
You know what's awesome though is if you get rid of the AV and you look at where our industry is really going. I was having a conversation with Tommy earlier. It's actually one step further. Is we're getting into networking really, and here we got security plus, network plus. I know at one point we were like, oh no, IT people are going to take over our industry, but it's actually kind of scary the opposite way around. Is as we get more and more knowledgeable, we can actually be our own network guys. You know, we're going to start hiring our own network guys, and it's like, whoa, we can actually start taking over some of their industry. I'm not saying that as like, you know, that's where I want to go. I want to stay with our core competency, but you can also see where your capabilities are now endless. You know,
You think 5 years from now we're just going to say we work in IT?
Well, it's going to be tough because IT, you know, like I hate saying that we're in IT because IT people, the guys we work with, you ask them for a monitor, they slap up a monitor, you're like, that's terrible. You know, I think we're actually experience providers, going back to that whole experience thing. I wouldn't go with the IT or AV. So,
No, I think that compartmentalizes us too much. I think
exactly.
it's so much more of that, and if you focus on the experience overall, it can mean so much more. Back to what we started with, that if you try and compartmentalize the IT versus AV versus, facility, whatever it is, I think that it diminishes the value in what you're truly providing.
Yeah, we're kind of lucky that those IT people, they've actually kind of pigeonholed themselves conveniently for us to play against. They're very robotic, get it done, efficient, machine-like, and we can get back to our roots as being the people who are artistic, are passionate, and we're more engaged with the human side. And like you said, maybe we take in some of their skill set, but we make ourselves the sort of next, we're above them, we're the next level,
Did we just call them robots and we're humans?
Totally. It comes down as simple as that,
But at the same time, going the human route, I always relate to them all the time, because I get why they're the way that they are. I mean, for them, in a picture-perfect world, they have a network that's just closed off to the world, and that is 100% secure, right? Unfortunately, we have to connect, and that's where they're always on the defense. They're always trying to protect their network.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of times they're as rigid as they are. Some of them, and I met some of them, grew up with some of them where they were an amazing, person, like they should have been a salesperson, and now they're thinking IT defense, and all of a sudden they're like, nope, can't do it, and they're always head down. What happened to you, So, I mean, I get why they are the way that they are. It is a scary world for them.
Yeah.
I think we have to embrace change. I think that it's inevitable. And I think if we keep doing things that we have been, we'll be dead. I mean, that's what it all boils down to.
Yeah, maybe that's maybe one last question just to wrap up before we can open it up to questions. I think I kind of wrote down earlier, like I said, we have to embrace change, right? So what is holding us back? What is one thing you think is holding us back as an integrator, as an industry?
I personally think it's that fear of not having the perfect solution, not having the Ubers or the Amazons or this, that we're putting so much pressure on ourselves to have, that one key takeaway, the one thing that's going to solve all of our problems. I think we need to take a step back and simplify and look at the value that we can add and how, instead of trying to come up with, that one specific thing and then work into it that way, kind of work back into what that model would look like.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I think you got to stop being old. I think that's the biggest thing. Is that I don't mean that like as an age thing. I mean that as a mindset thing. Yes. Well, I mean, I attribute it to I remember when my dad took us skiing, and we were 8 years old, and we just hit the slopes that day. And as kids, you're hitting black diamonds and double black diamonds. You're just like, yeah. And adults are like, hell no, man. Because as you get older, you have experiences, and with experiences, you understand the risk. And when you're young, like these other companies like Uber and Airbnb, when they grow, I mean, they're young. They're like, dude, let's do this differently, And for me, I say, I know there's a risk, but if you want to survive, you have to adapt, and that's where leverage your young people. Don't do the old school way where like you're young, you don't know. Let them come up with the crazy idea and then guide it to where you need it to be. Don't disable them, enable them. That's the biggest thing.
And I think too, don't assume. Back to the employees and everything else. Ask your customers, and then sit back and shut up and listen.
Yeah.
Let them tell you what their problems are, and then go from there.
I think one thing we also have, I've noticed, the industry is loaded with super intelligent, engineer-minded individuals, and sometimes that engineer approach or that mind state is not exactly the solution design mind state. So if you can kind of try to diversify your population a little bit, add a little bit of a more creative side so that your tech and your creative balance each other. Otherwise, you kind of end up in the room. You can't even help but make your conversation technology-based. So, sometimes that engineering mind state can just hinder what you're really trying to do for the customer. So if you can just balance that out whenever possible.
Interesting. Kevin, do you have anything that's holding us back?
I'm still trying to process Kaleo's "Don't be old." And if anyone's got an answer to that one, no, I agree. I think change is youth-driven. So yeah, make sure your company's open-minded and is open to ideas from the younger generation. And what keeps you up at night, right? I wonder if there is a Netflix or an Uber or there's something like that in our industry that's just waiting to be discovered, right? I wonder, is it there? Is there something that transformational that will put us all out of business? No. But is there something that we just haven't found yet that's really going to change how we do business?
And I got to permanently squash the age thing. I mean, did you hear Chip yesterday?
Yeah, that guy was
Oh, dude.
Kidding me? I mean, it's definitely not an age thing at all. I mean, I think what Kaleo meant was probably more just, letting a mind state around a particular topic become outdated and sticking to it, but
Or
it's
being
definitely
fearful
not,
based on
it's definitely not an age
Yeah.
thing. I've met so many creative people of all ages. I mean, like I said, Chip yesterday, the guy was on fire.
It was awesome.
Mine was just flying.
Well, I think too that, the stereotypes and everything else, but one of the things that was said was that, okay, the majority of the room is, white male, 50%, age 50 years or older. And I think that if you've done something for so long and it's worked and worked well, that it's difficult to try and change, but you're trying to get on the forefront of what's coming. Seeing that, yes, this has worked and yes, it's worked well. However, knowing that when we look to the future, it is going to be different. It's not going to be the same way that it is today. And if we're not being proactive and trying to look to see what does that look like and be ahead of the curve instead of being dead in the water, then I think that that's part of it, is just changing your frame of mind and how you look at it.
I think some of it's not being afraid to fail. Set the boundaries and say, this is where we can't fail here, but let's try some things and be okay with failure. Be okay not having the perfect solution, like you said.
Right,
That
exactly.
was a good point.
Yeah, that's it. And it's choosing the piece. I think that what you're all saying is if you choose the piece of it that relates to how we like to work, it can invigorate us. Instead of seeing change as something threatening, we can see it as something that we've always wanted to fix. And we can go from there.
Yeah, usually fear is the thing that creates somebody to hold on to an idea that's unhealthy. Fear of job security. I'm just not in the mood to learn more. I'm pretty comfortable. I just kind of want to keep doing the thing. That's a personal issue at that point. But everybody has that ability to just sit down and just start thinking differently. So if you're holding on to anything unhealthy and you know it's unhealthy and you know you need to change, just address it and probably start moving faster than you think.
Yeah.
Well, it's like Chip's presentation yesterday. We're stuck in patterns, right?
Yeah.
We can read scrambled text because we've been pre-programmed to piece all the words together. So it's breaking those patterns and those habits.
Yep.
There you go. That's the true next gen. All right. I think we have a couple. Tim is ready with the change mic.
Waiting for that thing.
Oh, no, he's not. It has been destroyed. That is a bad indicator of the future.
Wow, it's good to know that the throwing box ejects a hard object. Wow.
Hi, people from Corey's. Maybe should we do a regular handheld mic? Anyway, do we want to do? Does anyone have any? Oh, we do have a question right away. Mr. President.
I'm not going to throw it.
Yeah, he's just carefully handed it to
Dilly dilly.
So to the younger sales managers on stage, I'm really interested in how you're disrupting your sales organization to get away from. I mean, we all have kind of legacy sales guys and girls that have made a good living selling black boxes. So what are you doing to migrate your sales organization to now sell business outcomes, customer success? That would be my question.
So for us, it's twofold. One is train, message, train. Like we really have to push that down to the sales team right from the top. So all of our conversations when we're talking with our sales team are about customer experience, and eventually they will change. It's a force of nature that we're just going to have to push down on them. The other thing is on the technology side, we're introducing automation tools like HubSpot CRM that's allowing them to have that higher level of interaction with prospects and clients on an automated level, so essentially allowing them to be doubly or triply effective in their communications with their clients. So those are two things we're doing.
I think, too, it depends how you're hiring salespeople. I know probably fewer in this room, but I know a lot of our competitors just hire their really good technicians and they move them into sales. which to me, I'm not saying a technician couldn't be a good salesperson per se, but I don't think being good at technical stuff necessarily lends the same skill set as sales. So the people we've hired, I actually look to Enterprise Rent-A-Car a lot because they do this management training program. They are a great resource because those people get paid nothing, work really hard, and they'll come to you for a lot less than you thought. But so it's just about the mentality. You know, I hire people that understand business processes. I require everyone to have a bachelor's degree. I don't really care what it's in, but so I think it's just shifting that mentality. We're not a technical sales organization anymore. You know, 10 years ago that worked, but today it doesn't. So that's my thing.
We do something similar to what you guys do as far as creating teams. You know, my older staff, they have experience and they have a foundation that's beyond the knowledge of the younger employees. And that's where we leverage their experience for certain things. And at the same time, our younger guys are a little bit better at opening doors, and you know they're not afraid, so they get in there. And then when it gets beyond their knowledge, my mature staff ends up stepping up. So we've gone more of the team route, and you know we've been trying as much as possible to kind of get that, you know, not exactly, but something similar to that McDonald's aspect where you have this responsibility, and just make it as quick and streamlined as possible. But we're still playing around with things. It's not perfect. It works for one team, but it doesn't work for another, you know, so we're still playing with that other team. So
I think a lot of it has to do with the leadership and the vision and the culture. I think that it's one thing to say, oh, you need to embrace this, oh, you need to change, but if we're still doing things the same way that we have before, and we're still looking at, you know, the hardware versus the solutions, I think that it needs to be an intrinsic part of who you are and what you speak and live and breathe every day. And I think that if you don't have that, it's not going to change. I think you can say and give lip service all day long that this is what you need to be doing and this is how you need to be doing it. But if that's not how we're focusing our conversations and interacting and engaging and literally living it every day, I think it's just words. And I think that it doesn't hold the value and the merit as it does when you actually incorporate it into who you are.
Very holistic. All right. Alicia or Lindsay?
I have a mic, so I'm going to go first.
Okay, Lindsay.
You can have it next. So you guys have all been really great advocates of the next generation here. Way to stay on theme. But in doing so, you also make it sound really easy, right? So I was just wondering if you guys could discuss some specific examples of the intergenerational dynamic at your companies.
Definitely not easy. No. If we made it sound easy, it's definitely not at all. I mean, it's a grind. You just have to, again, kind of grassroots culture adaptation. You just got to slowly, one by one, group by group, person by person, build relationships and just get people to step one idea at a time and address things that need to be addressed. And it's a total grind, and it takes years. So the opposite of easy, I'd say.
Yeah, it's easy to speak about generational stereotypes, but I think I look at the younger people within our organization. They're just great people, right? They're passionate about their jobs. They want to be successful. They want to contribute to the greater good of the company. So I think as long as you're evaluating, you know, new employees based on those kind of fundamental characteristics, it really doesn't matter kind of what demographic generation they might fall into.
Well, and I think to start, obviously the payout is big. We actually say it's one of our strengths is that we have a great mix of people that have been with our company for 30, 40 years, and we have young people like me that don't work, and I mean there's a whole variety in between. And it's a strength because the young people bring in this fresh new perspective, but some of the more experienced people can say, hey, we've done that, you're about to drive off a cliff, stop. So it's a really good mix. And yeah, it's not easy, but I think like you talked about a lot of different social type things, whether it's a company picnic, a barbecue, you know, and that gives you a chance to talk to other people and get to know them personally, and you understand that just because we're back there playing ping pong doesn't mean we're not working, you know. So it's challenging, but it's worth it.
Yeah, I think that it's extremely difficult. I think that the biggest piece is just having the buy-in and the support of everyone. I think it's just a matter of, again, taking time out. We're falling back into old ways, or instead of the naysayers and, oh, we can't do that, maybe we challenge someone to say that the ideas are brought forth, that we're going to come up with 5 ways why this would work, instead of just immediately saying, no, that won't work. So trying to challenge to reframe the way that people approach, you know, different things, to say, well, what's the positive, or how would this be beneficial, instead of just automatically going with the no, or won't work, or we've not done that, or.
Yeah, it's not easy at all. I think for everybody on the next gen side, we're good at knowing where we need to go. We're good at identifying that long distance goal, which is where I think it sounds like clarity is easy, and but that venture to get there, I think that's where the skill, the true skill to be able to adapt and adjust to eventually get to that long road. Like even for me, I think I have it figured out. Like I'm a great talker, and I go out to a client site, and I might have had like months of like just success, and then I hit this one client who's just anti-young. And he just he dismisses me. I kid you not. I mean, you hit that, no matter how personable I can get. So that's where, you can't take it personal. So I bring one of our project managers, he's a great guy. He's got a lot of experience. He comes out, and it's so funny because they will talk to him, and he'll turn to me, and then I'll answer. They feel a lot more comfortable talking to him, So it's just, don't take it personal. It's not easy. You think you have it figured out, and the next day you get slapped in the face, and it's, you just adjust.
I think we have time, for Alicia. Yep.
Well, first of all, I have to use the catch box. So, Mr. President, can you pass that to me or Craig?
There you go.
I'm not going to hit you.
Don't throw it. All right, she wants to throw it.
That's our insurance.
Thank you for throwing it. But my question is more about communication, because we talked about that a lot towards the beginning of the panel. We talked about it from the top down. What if management is not necessarily an open door? How does the team build that culture and communication upward? Any advice on that?
Pitchforks.
That's tough. Yeah, if you have a management team that's not open to communication from the ground level up, you have a real challenge ahead of you.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, I'd suggest communicating with your peers and trying to get a collective consensus or something that's compelling enough that if you bring it to the table with a group of people, it's hard to ignore. It's, I mean, if you're really in a situation where your management is that bad, nah, I'm not talking to you actually. Thanks, you guys, go away. I mean, that's a whole nother kind of problem. But just try to formulate your ideas as best you can in a group. If not, if you don't get reception in the beginning, put your head down, work on stuff, and bring it back. Go back 10 times until you get some kind of progress. That's what I'd say.
A leader doesn't always have to be the guy at the top. You can have a leader within the organization, within the team. However, as you start to ban, and you might create your own success at your level, if the company, whether it's the president or somebody within that management team or who has that deciding power, if they don't address that and fix that person who's being your stopping block, though, you're never going to get to the point where it's scalable. You're always going to get stopped right there. That's the hardest part. So you can create success within your own team, but without that upper management to be able to empower you beyond that, you're not going to be scalable for the rest of the success of your company. That's the hardest part. So you do need that top leadership, but at the same time, you can still get success within your team.
Yep.
So don't let that stop you. But at the same time, for company-wise, take a look. Is any of your managers being that roadblock for your team?
Yep.
Well, and I think
Persistence, for sure. Sorry.
some of it is, kind of depends how you're approaching things. What are you trying to communicate about? Like I tell my team all the time, don't come to me with problems. Come to me with the problem and the solution you think would work. We'll talk about it, but don't just come whine to me. If you need to vent, fine. I'm fine with that. But so if you can, I'm thinking like from a sales mentality, whatever this person in that role, what are their issues? What are they trying to get accomplished? If you can go prove that you're going to either help whatever their goal is by this new idea, I think they would hopefully be open to that. Whatever their role is, they should have some kind of KPI that you can say, let's impact this by doing this. So.
That's a cool solution. Yeah, so we have time for one more question. Oh boy. Well, I'll let whoever's throwing the mic.
I'm going to throw it.
Waiting for you to
dear.
do something. Awesome.
Nice.
I wanted to follow up on Jeff's question, and I think Kirby, your answer about hiring people from Enterprise Rent-A-Car. So I'm old-ish, but, and I've been in the industry for a while. So when the company I work for, when we've hired way outside the industry or outside the industry for sales, it has been a challenge, not only as a sales manager to help that person get on board and ramp up. But of course, I want to hire people and give them the tools to be successful, because if they're not successful, they're not going to stay. So I guess my question is, I think that's great that you can hire from Enterprise Rent-A-Car, but what is that onboarding and ramp-up period to have that salesperson enjoy success and be a part of the team? Because we are still a niche or nuancy type of industry, and there is a technical expertise that comes with having experience for a number of years selling technical solutions.
So I don't know any other way because I've never hired someone from in industry, but my team relies heavily on our technology team. We have 2 engineers on staff, and I'm not afraid. One of the things I tell my people all the time, don't ever be afraid to say, I don't know the answer to that, but I can get you the answer. So, I mean, we do all the standard stuff. We encourage our people to go through CTS, and we take them to Infocom and some of that so they can see hands-on technology. Typically in their first week, we'll take them to a job site or 2 and actually show them, here's what we're doing. But still today, I couldn't tell you. I don't know the gigawatts and things we work in. I have no idea. Gigawatts a word? I don't even know. But so we really do. We talk business level, we talk experience, and then when they say, well, we want to know the gigawatts you're using, I bring in Brandon or our engineer and say, you come tell them about that stuff, and they get those answers. So for me, I think it's just enabling them to say, I don't know, but give them the resources that they need to then provide to the customer. I hope that kind of helps answer that.
Well, I think it's a substantial investment for any company. And I think
it's a long game.
So much of us looking toward more of an experience now, there's less of that ramp up that's needed. It's that likability factor. It's that sitting across the table, is it easy to engage with them? Are they willing to listen? Have they, done their homework? Are they, someone that can interact, that can be someone that the customer can find value in as being that subject matter expert, just because of the personality? So I think that it is a substantial investment, but I think it's more about those behavioral competencies and less about the technical aptitude. I think it's a matter of somebody that's a go-getter, that's going to get out, that's going to want to engage and have those conversations, and just has that likability factor that I want to sit across the table and have a conversation. They're engaging me and wanting to ask the next question and want to find out more, and I want to, dump all my problems onto them, because they're going to ultimately help me to achieve, my goal and what I need to succeed. So I think that there is a substantial investment, but I think it's about how you go about it and really how you articulate the vision and what we're trying to do for our customers.
Yeah, and I've thought about it a bunch lately. I think that if you are hiring someone from outside the industry, the first thing is, I think great salespeople and great relationship builders are great at that. And if you have a good package for them to deliver that's easy to absorb and easy to repeat, I think that they can go push that. I think the first step is probably making sure sales and marketing are as in line as possible, and everyone feels like you've done the best job you can simplifying that message, so that when someone jumps in, you already feel like, hey, this is an easy script, easy conversation. Hey, and you don't even need to say it just like this. Here's 20 ways you can say it, but here's the main message. I think if you lock that down, then when you go to recruit and you find these great talent out there, it's going to be much easier to just hand the ball off. There's a lot of great salespeople who could walk into AV right now and be like, I've always been good in the past, but there's too much going on. You got all these different services, all these different words I'm hearing from all different angles. Gigawatts and all that. So if you can do your best job to simplify, it's much easier to bring in talent from outside. That's what I would say.
Yeah, our migration away from products more towards solutions actually facilitates the ability to bring in people from outside industry. I remember 10, 15 years ago, if you didn't grow up in the industry, you didn't have a chance as a salesperson. So, we're looking at other shrinking industries, copier industries, like we've got a few copier salespeople that have joined us. That's a very simple technology, so they go into a very complex technology. But again, we do a lot of pre-hiring assessments, personality profiling, aptitude testing, fairly rigorous interview process. And then we do that because we estimate it's a year before they can carry a full quota.
I say don't dismiss the old school methods. One thing that actually I find works really well is mentorship. Like for me, if I have an employee, like I got one guy, I forget how old he is, he's 60 something, but he's excellent. He's great at biz dev, opening up doors. So my guys who are, my younger crew who's having a hard time understanding that, we'll go ahead and put them on with them. They'll help them do measurements, but ultimately their goal is to watch how they're, interacting. When it comes to closing a sale, I'll have them come out with either Thomas, our president, my dad, or myself, and watch how we have those conversations. And then we'll have a post-sales review and go over what worked and what didn't work and what's going to work for them. And after about 3 or 4 times, they start to kind of embody the culture that we're trying to, encourage. And it's the micro messaging. It's not the things you can teach in a textbook. It's things that they have to actually experience and see for themselves.